today, as we mark what would have been my beloved mother's 100th birthday, my family and I pause to reflect and to celebrate anew the many blessings of her memory.
London, April 21st, 2026. The United Kingdom and the Commonwealth did not simply pause. Instead, there was a deep, steady wave of gratitude as midnight marked 100 years since the birth of Queen Elizabeth II. The atmosphere carried a quiet intensity, with history almost feeling present in the morning mist over St. James's Park. This moment stood as more than a date. It reflected a powerful connection between eras, where the reign of King Charles III reached back to honor the legacy that shaped him. Across London, the mood felt alive and emotional, yet still held within the composed dignity expected of the monarchy. By early morning, the streets leading to Buckingham Palace were filled with flowers. Unlike 2022, the feeling was not defined by grief, but by reflection and appreciation. It marked the life of a woman whose reign stretched across generations, from early industrial advancements to the digital age. At the center of it all stood the king, carrying both responsibility and memory. Sources close to the palace indicate that Charles approached this centenary with deep personal commitment. He did not leave it solely to royal planners. Instead, he remained closely involved, shaping each detail to ensure the tribute felt meaningful rather than symbolic. His goal was to create something that reflected both the public figure and the private mother. The day began quietly at St. George's Chapel in Windsor, where the king spent time in private reflection. This moment away from public view set the tone before he returned to lead a nation still adjusting to the absence of its longest reigning monarch. Charles structured the commemoration with a dual purpose. One part reinforced the stability of the monarchy. The other focused on a more personal narrative. He chose to write the evening eulogy himself, adding a level of emotional authenticity rarely seen in such events. He also curated archival footage, including previously unseen moments from the Queen's well-known appearance with Paddington Bear. Through this, he emphasized that beyond the crown, this was about family and memory. His role extended beyond succession, positioning himself as a guardian of her legacy. The events began a day earlier with the opening of the exhibition, Queen Elizabeth II, Her Life and Style. Charles and Queen Camilla attended first, offering a moment that drew attention. The king paused for a notable length of time in front of the 1953 coronation gown, reflecting on a defining moment in her reign. The exhibition included over 200 items, tracing her journey from a young princess to a global symbol. Charles's decision to highlight fashion was intentional. For the Queen, clothing served as a form of communication, representing diplomacy and identity. While observing designs by Norman Hartnell, the king reportedly spoke about her commitment to British craftsmanship. Each garment reflected a deeper message, often representing countries within the Commonwealth. Her well-known principle, "I must be seen to be believed," shaped her public presence. Bright colors and consistent visibility ensured she remained accessible to people across the world. By presenting these elements, Charles reinforced how her image played a role in maintaining connection with the public. In a notable move, the king approved the opening of private apartments at the Palace of Holyrood House. This allowed the public to see a more personal side of the Queen, highlighting her appreciation for quiet life in Scotland and bridging the distance between monarchy and everyday experience. Earlier in the day, Charles met with Prime Minister Keir Starmer at the British Museum. Together, they finalized plans for a national memorial dedicated to the Queen. This collaboration elevated the centenary from a royal event to a moment of national importance. The memorial, designed by Norman Foster, incorporates symbolic elements. The Crown Bridge draws inspiration from her wedding tiara, while the Philip Gate honors Prince Philip. Each feature reflects key aspects of her life and reign. This project represents more than architecture. It serves as a lasting connection between the Queen's legacy and the identity of the nation. Through it, Charles ensures her influence remains present in public space. The royal family also played defined roles throughout the day. Princess Anne opened the Queen Elizabeth II Garden at Regent's Park, reflecting her consistent dedication to duty and her shared values with her mother. Meanwhile, Prince Edward and Sophie focused on community engagement. Their visits to organizations such as the Royal Canine Club and the British Red Cross highlighted the continuation of the Queen's charitable work. At the same time, the absence of Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and Prince Andrew drew attention. While widely discussed in the media, the palace maintained its focus on the purpose of the day, avoiding any shift toward internal family matters. As evening approached, attention turned to Buckingham Palace for the main reception. The arrival of Prince William and Catherine signaled continuity, representing the next phase of the monarchy. Inside, preparations reflected careful planning. The king personally reviewed the guest list, which included individuals born in 1926, the same year as the queen. This created a meaningful connection between her life and those who shared her generation. Guests received 100th birthday cards directly from the king, marking a rare and symbolic interaction between monarch and citizens. It highlighted the relationship the queen maintained with the public throughout her reign. In his prepared words, the king wrote, "My mother touched the lives of countless people. She will forever be in our hearts and our prayers." The statement was simple, yet carried weight, capturing the tone of the day. April 21st, 2026 stands not only as a reflection of the past, but as a continuation of a legacy. It shows how the monarchy adapts while preserving the values that defined it. Through these moments, the presence of Queen Elizabeth II remains part of the nation's future. The night is still unfolding, and the most emotional moments are only just beginning. As April 21st, 2026 moves into evening, the energy shifts from the open streets of London to the controlled high-pressure setting inside Buckingham Palace. The focus tightens, moving away from public displays into something more personal, more calculated, and far more revealing. Inside the Marble Hall, everything feels intentional. This is no ordinary gathering. It is a carefully structured mix of family remembrance and state power, where every detail has been designed to carry meaning. King Charles III made sure nothing was left to chance. From the scent of lily of the valley, known to be Queen Elizabeth II's favorite, to the music echoing through the halls, every element quietly pulls guests back into her era. Then comes the moment everyone is watching: the arrival of Prince William and Catherine. This is not just an entrance, it is a statement. They represent continuity, stability, and the future direction of the monarchy. Their presence alone shifts the tone of the entire evening. Catherine's appearance carries its own message. Royal watchers immediately notice the details. She wears the three-strand pearl necklace long associated with the late queen, paired with a diamond brooch that holds its own historical weight. This is not about style, it is about symbolism. By choosing these pieces, she steps directly into a visual lineage, signaling that the grace and discipline of the past are being carried forward without disruption. Standing beside her, William maintains a composed and steady presence. Together, they present an image that counters years of internal tension within the royal family. There is no visible strain, no distraction. What is shown instead is unity and focus, reinforcing the idea that duty comes before personal conflict. At the center of the evening is a moment that shifts everything. In a room filled with individuals who, like the Queen, were born in 1926, the king makes a decision that changes the tone completely. Instead of sending traditional birthday cards, he presents them in person. This gesture removes distance. It brings the monarchy closer to the people in a way that feels direct and human. These are individuals who lived through the same decades of change as the Queen, and now they stand face to face with her son. It is not just symbolic, it is deeply personal, showing that her connection to the public did not end with her passing. As the evening builds, the room quiets for the documentary tribute. This is not just a standard presentation, it is something Charles personally shaped. As the footage begins, the atmosphere shifts into silence. Images from a 70-year reign move across the screen, reminding everyone of the scale of what defined her life. Then comes the moment that changes the tone. The footage of the Queen with Paddington Bear appears, including the now famous reveal about the marmalade sandwich in her handbag. A soft ripple moves through the room as guests react with quiet laughter. It breaks the formality just enough to remind everyone that behind the crown was a person with humor and personality. This choice is deliberate. Charles is not only presenting history, he is controlling how it is remembered. He highlights not just power and duty, but warmth and relatability. As he prepares to speak, another reality hangs in the background. The absence of Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and Prince Andrew is noticeable, even without being mentioned. There are no empty gestures to acknowledge them. The message is clear through silence alone. When the king begins his eulogy, the tone becomes direct. He focuses not on titles or achievements, but on values. He speaks about the Queen's belief that goodness would always prevail, framing her legacy as something moral rather than ceremonial. This moment reinforces the shift taking place. The monarchy is not just reflecting on the past, it is setting expectations for the future. While Buckingham Palace holds the spotlight, the wider city carries the rest of the story. Across London's parks, the legacy takes on a different form, one grounded in action and continuity. Princess Anne plays a key role in this part of the day. Her responsibility is not accidental. It reflects her long-standing reputation for consistency and discipline. At Regent's Park, she opens the Queen Elizabeth II Garden, a space designed to carry forward the Queen's connection to nature. This is not just a ceremonial event. It is a symbolic act. The garden represents continuity, placing the Queen's influence directly into the physical environment of the future. Anne's presence reinforces this message. She does not rely on spectacle. Her approach is steady and practical, mirroring the values she inherited. During her address, she speaks not of a distant monarch, but of a mother who valued quiet moments and the rhythms of nature. The garden itself reflects that perspective. It includes the Elizabeth II rose and oak trees grown from acorns gathered from royal estates, tying together different parts of the Queen's life. Her interaction with the public remains grounded. Instead of focusing on appearances, she engages in conversations about the details of the garden, from soil conditions to plant resilience. This approach resonates because it reflects authenticity rather than performance. At the same time, Prince Edward and Sophie move through a series of community engagements. Their role is to maintain the connection between the monarchy and the public. Their visits include the Royal Canine Club, recognizing the Queen's well-known love for corgis, and the British Red Cross, one of the many organizations she supported. These appearances are not about visibility alone. They demonstrate that her influence continues through active involvement. At the canine event, the gathering of corgis introduces a lighter moment, reflecting a more personal side of the Queen's life. Sophie, who shared a close bond with her, speaks openly with volunteers, emphasizing that these charities were never symbolic. They mattered to the Queen on a personal level. This coordinated effort across the royal family shows a clear strategy. While the king focuses on national identity and long-term legacy, other members maintain direct engagement with communities. It creates a balanced structure that reinforces both tradition and relevance. The absence of certain family members becomes less significant in this context. With a full schedule of meaningful appearances, attention remains on those actively participating. The focus stays on continuity rather than division. One of the more unexpected moments comes with a visit from the King and Princess Anne to a workshop near the Queen's Gallery. Here, young students are learning traditional embroidery techniques, the same methods used in royal garments. This visit connects past craftsmanship with future generations. It reinforces the idea that legacy is not only preserved in memory, but passed on through skill and practice. In a rare moment where emotion slipped through the royal mask, King Charles III made a quiet but powerful remark. He shared that watching young people learn traditional crafts felt like the greatest birthday gift his mother could have received. That statement carried weight. It showed that the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II was never just about appearances, but about the skilled hands behind everything she represented. As the afternoon light began to fade, attention shifted back toward Buckingham Palace. The activity across the parks and the outreach led by the Edinburghs had already built momentum. Now everything pointed toward the final and most serious phase of the day. The message was becoming clear. The monarchy is not frozen in time. It moves, adapts, and continues to serve, just as the Queen did for decades. The centenary moved smoothly from large public displays into something more personal and grounded. By the time evening approached, the focus turned toward how memory itself would be preserved. This is where the king left his strongest mark, not just emotionally, but structurally. His involvement in planning the National Memorial at St. James's Park was described by insiders as extremely detailed. He did not want a simple statue. He wanted something functional, meaningful, and integrated into the life of the city. His collaboration with Norman Foster, finalized during their meeting at the British Museum, reflected a mix of tradition and modern thinking. At the center of this vision stands the Crown Bridge. Designed to stretch across the park's lake, its structure mirrors the patterns found in the Queen's tiaras. For Charles, this was not just design, it was symbolism. The bridge represents connection, linking past and present, and reflecting how the Queen held together different parts of the world under one crown. Alongside it, the Philip Gate honors Prince Philip. This addition reinforces the idea that her legacy cannot be separated from the partnership that supported her throughout her reign. It also reflects the king's own emphasis on shared responsibility within the monarchy. But the vision goes beyond physical structures. Charles also approved the creation of a digital archive dedicated to the Queen's life, This project aims to make her personal recordings and journals accessible for education. It represents a shift toward openness, allowing the public to see her not only as a figure of authority, but as a person with everyday experiences. This approach removes distance. It allows people to connect with her story in a more direct way, seeing moments of family life, travel, and personal reflection. The intention is clear. The monarchy is being reshaped into something more transparent and relatable. This same idea appears in the Stitch and Sketch workshops held near the palace grounds. These sessions invite the public to engage with traditional embroidery techniques once reserved for royal garments. Watching participants learn these skills creates a link between past craftsmanship and present curiosity. At the same time, the absence of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle becomes less significant. The event is structured so tightly around active participation that attention remains on those contributing rather than those missing. The situation involving Prince Andrew is handled with similar precision. His lack of visibility reinforces a shift in priorities under Charles, where public service defines relevance within the institution. Earlier in the day, the king's visit to the Life and Style exhibition revealed another layer of his thinking. Observers noted how long he studied the embroidered details on gowns designed by Norman Hartnell. For him, these were not just garments. They represented communication without words, reflecting relationships across the Commonwealth. He reportedly commented that the Queen often spoke through what she wore, using visual presence instead of direct statements. This idea sits at the center of how Charles is shaping the centenary. The focus is not only on what she did, but how she connected with people. As evening approached and preparations continued in the Marble Hall, the city itself seemed anchored by these new forms of remembrance. The king managed to turn a century of history into a series of actions that felt both rooted and relevant. These efforts are not only about honoring the past, they also create a framework for the future. By defining how the Queen's legacy should be understood, Charles is also setting expectations for his own reign and for those who will follow. Inside the palace, the focus begins to shift again. The centenary moves from structure and symbolism into something more personal and generational. If Charles shaped the vision, then Prince William and Catherine carry it forward. Their presence during the evening reception is not simply ceremonial. It signals continuity. They represent the next stage of the monarchy, connecting what defined the Queen's era with what will come next. Catherine's role stands out in particular. Her ability to communicate through appearance and behavior reflects lessons drawn from the late Queen. Beyond the jewelry she wears, her composure and engagement mirror the balance between formality and approachability that defined Elizabeth's public image. Throughout the evening, she focuses on conversations with younger representatives from various patronages, especially those connected to mental health and early childhood development. This choice reflects a deliberate shift. It shows how the values of the past are being applied to modern challenges. Her presence bridges generational gaps, making the monarchy more accessible to audiences who view earlier decades as distant history. Beside her, William maintains a steady and composed role. His conversations with international representatives emphasize the importance of continuity within the Commonwealth. He speaks about maintaining a standard of service shaped by his grandmother's example, but adapted for a changing world. A key moment comes during the presentation of birthday cards to guests born in 1926. The interaction between the King and the Prince of Wales reveals a visible sense of understanding. It reflects a shared awareness of responsibility and the expectations tied to their positions. This moment reinforces confidence in the stability of the monarchy. It shows alignment between present leadership and future direction. The absence of the Montecito-based branch of the family continues to draw attention externally, but inside the palace, the focus remains controlled. The structured schedule leaves little room for distraction, keeping attention on the purpose of the event. A particularly emotional point comes during the documentary screening. Footage from the Queen's final balcony appearance during the Platinum Jubilee appears, including a brief interaction with Prince Louis. The moment draws a soft reaction from the audience, reminding everyone that behind the public image was a close-knit family. During this sequence, William is seen speaking quietly with the King. It is a brief exchange, but it reflects shared memory and responsibility. It adds a human dimension to what is otherwise a highly structured event. As the evening continues, the role of William and Catherine becomes clearer. They are not simply present. They are actively shaping how the monarchy is perceived moving forward. Their balance of tradition and relatability provides a contrast to the King's more reflective approach. Together, they create a sense of progression. The past is being honored, but the future is already being defined. As the event moves toward its conclusion, the sense of transition becomes complete. The centenary is no longer just about remembrance. It becomes a demonstration of continuity, showing how legacy is carried forward in real time. Approaching midnight, the atmosphere inside the marble hall becomes more focused. The final stage of the evening centers on the king's address. Standing beneath portraits of past monarchs, he prepares to deliver a speech that brings together everything the day has represented. His words begin not with titles or achievements, but with personal memories. He speaks about his mother's influence not just on the nation, but on the character of the people. He describes how she nurtured a sense of stability and care, comparing it to the patience she showed in tending her gardens. He references the well-known Paddington moment, describing it as a reflection of her ability to connect through humor and simplicity. By highlighting this, he reinforces the idea that leadership can exist alongside warmth and relatability. The speech then shifts toward the future. He emphasizes the belief that kindness and consistency hold lasting value, even in a rapidly changing world. He presents the monarchy as a steady presence, shaped by tradition but responsive to modern realities. As he speaks, attention turns briefly to William and Catherine. Their expressions reflect understanding and readiness, reinforcing the message of continuity. Outside, the city responds with its own tribute. A coordinated drone display appears over the River Thames, forming images associated with the Queen, including the Elizabeth II rose and the outline of the imperial state crown. This display connects tradition with modern technology, mirroring the themes of the day. Crowds gathered along the mall respond with a unified expression of support, signaling acceptance of the transition into a new era. The final moments of the night are private. The King, Queen Camilla, and working members of the royal family withdraw to the chapel for reflection. Away from public attention, the focus returns to family and personal remembrance. By maintaining a consistent focus throughout the day, Charles ensures that the centenary remains centered on legacy rather than distraction. His approach emphasizes contribution and service as defining factors within the monarchy. As the lights begin to dim across Buckingham Palace, the impact of the day becomes clear. The legacy of Queen Elizabeth II feels active rather than distant. It is presented not as something completed, but as something ongoing. The centenary serves as both reflection and direction. It allows the nation to look back while also setting expectations for what comes next. Through careful planning and execution, the king has shaped an event that connects generations and reinforces identity. As April 22nd approaches, the sense of continuity remains strong. The legacy of the Queen stands not only in memory, but in the actions and responsibilities carried forward by those who follow.